So you got a container like this that says currants on it. The currants have been sitting in the bake shop for quite some time without being used, so they're a little dry. I added some water to plump them. You'll see that on the recipe. I'm going to suggest to you that when you get home, until you're going to make the currant scones, store the currants like this. The water, you'll see that more of the liquid is at the bottom. Store it upside down so that some of the water migrates to the top until you're ready to use them. I'm going to show you how I scale the butter and prepare it. Again, so I have my scale. I'm going to zero it out. We need 6 ounces of butter. I'm going to use another scrap from my practice with the parchment cone. So I'm going to put, you don't need to do this. You can use something else. You could use a plate, but these are just very handy pieces of paper. I'm going to use a bench scraper and a cutting board. Let me just make sure that we're so just a little bit over, that's 6.5. Take a little bit off. 1/2 ounce is quite close. Okay, that's 605. You can see the scales are quite precise. So that's the extra butter. Just wrap up. I gave you more butter than you needed. You want to wrap that up and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer for a later time when we're going to use butter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it on a cutting board. Again, using my bench scraper is the easiest thing to use. You don't have to use that. You can use a knife if you want. But in the bake shop, we always have a bench scraper. And it's so easy to put force down. So what I'm doing now is I am cutting the butter into smallish chunks. Okay, they're not perfectly the same size, but they will make incorporating much easier. Okay. So until I'm ready to go, I'm going to store this butter in the refrigerator to make sure it doesn't get too soft. Okay, I'm going to get ready to scale the eggs for the recipe. You may not have ever scaled eggs as opposed to measuring them. So we're going to start with the egg yolks. So I have the eggs here. We're going to start with the egg yolks. And I'm actually going to save the egg whites. I'd like you to as well, because we will be making Italian meringue buttercream in the future. So after you separate the eggs, have nice clean whites and put them in your freezer, and they will keep just fine for a long time. And then they'll be there when we want to make Italian meringue buttercream, and you won't need to separate quite as many eggs. So I'm going to turn on my scale, and I need I need 1 ounce of egg yolks. Now, when I have to separate eggs in the bake shop, I do it in my hand. I crack the egg and put it in my hand. We're doing so few eggs that I'm not going to have you do that. Egg yolks are about 1/2 ounce. So I'm going to need probably 2 egg yolks. Because this recipe is so small, if I go over on the egg yolks, I will just leave it and put in less whole egg. So I'm separating and trying to cut off the chaleze or the chaleza, which are the little strings. Those are great, and that's part of the egg white. If you can't do that, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit over on the egg yolks. That's okay. I'm not going to throw them away. If you get any egg yolk in your egg white, I don't have any in there, but the best thing to use is not a spoon. The best thing to use is an eggshell, because it actually is like a magnet and eggs are drawn to eggshells. I didn't happen to get any eggshells in there, but if you did, that's what you would do. So again, I'm a little bit over on the yolks. Rather than throw away the yolks, I'm gonna just put in a little bit less whole egg. So an egg is about 2 ounces. I only need 1 ounce. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to crack an egg, and using either a fork or my preference would be a whisk, I'm going to mix this together very well. This is going to work out perfectly because I'm going to pour what I need to into the bowl for scaling, and I'm going to save the rest for the egg wash that I need on top of the scones. So I'm mixing it up. I want to make sure that I get, if it calls for an egg, then I need to make sure to get egg white and egg yolk. So I'm going to pour that in until I get to 2 ounces, because I need 1 ounce of yolks and 1 ounce, there we go, 2 ounces. So this extra egg will be perfect for later on. I need egg wash on top of the scones. And this is the liquid that I'm going to use, this is the eggs that I'm going to use for the scones. Okay, I'm going to just scale my heavy cream right on top of my eggs. So again, give it a sniff. It should be okay. I brought it home at the same time I gave it to you. I need heavy cream. I need 7.5 ounces. So I'm going to zero my scale, and I'm going to pour 7.5 right on top of there. There we go. Okay. I may have given you extra. I wanted to make sure you had enough. Since I do have the whisk already dirty, I'm going to mix the eggs and the cream together very well. And then I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator because I want to make sure my liquid stays very cold. Gluten develops more slowly at cold temperatures, and our butter will stay solid if we have nice cold liquid. So again, if you don't have a whisk, feel free to use a fork. I'm using a whisk because I have one. Okay, so the liquid here is going back in the refrigerator. My egg whites are going into the freezer. The extra egg I'm going to use for egg wash, that's also going into the refrigerator to wait until I finish with the scone.